Hey students, before we get started with the show, I wanted to ask for your help. I'm currently producing my third term film, The Editor, which will be my final project at the Harold Ramis Film School, and I'm fundraising to cover some of the costs of the production. I would love it if you would check out my Indiegogo at igg.me/at/theeditorfilm, which you can also just click on in the notes for today's show, and donate if you can, but even if you can't, please share the link on your social media accounts. I would very much appreciate it. All right, cue the music. Hey students, welcome to episode 39 of the Film Student Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Lazzeroni. My guest this week is Madolyn Rusen from the Green Cohort. We talk about how she took HRFS and college classes at the same time because she's nuts, how great it is to have supportive parents, and we talk about her YouTube channel, Are We Rolling? On with the show.
I was on the wait list. We could talk about it, but I was on the wait list for 3 terms.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I applied for Orange originally, and then waitlisted on that, then waitlisted on Blue and Purple, and finally they're like, "Hey, you want to be in Green?" And I'm like, "Okay."
So, how did you end up here? You've got an interesting story too, because I know about you started out with doing college and this at the same time, which is you and Leva are the two psychos. Because Leva did.
What do you mean psychos?
She did it as a gap year, and so she's just going straight from one school to another one.
Oh.
And then you did it at the same
Straight
time,
through.
which is completely nuts as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, if you don't know this, I think Tavia mentioned she was taking classes on the side as well as this.
Okay.
Like she was getting another degree. So.
Okay, I didn't know about that one. I knew about yours.
Yeah, she briefly mentioned it, but where do I start? So I've been interested in filmmaking for since I was 14, basically. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to go to college for filmmaking, so I went to SAIC, School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And what was it? First semester freshman year, I hated college so much. And SAIC is just kind of weird. It's kind of out there just because everybody's just so bizarre. Yeah. With special snowflakes. And
it's all the artists.
Yeah, all the artists. They put the pain in painting. So so then halfway through college, I just hated college so much. I wanted to drop out. I even told my parents that I wanted to drop out, and I felt like I wasn't getting enough out of SAIC. Like something was missing, and I was getting enough equipment, learning how to learn equipment, but they're not really good at telling stories, or the screenwriting classes, they didn't really tell stories as well as, you wanted them to. So then I applied actually to DePaul. I wanted to transfer out of SAIC. So I applied to DePaul because my sister went to college there. And then they didn't give me enough money at all. So I considered just leaving that school. And then I was walking with my friend at 2 a.m. You shouldn't be doing that in the streets of Chicago. And we walk across the second city. We made it from all the way in the Loop, Van Buren Street, all the way to here without getting murdered or anything.
North end of Old Town, yeah.
Yeah. So then I saw Second City, and I knew of it but was never here before. And I was like, "Oh, Second City, this is where it is." Oh, okay. So then right when I got home that night, I looked on Second City looking for a job, actually, the website. Okay. And I was just surfing through the website, and I wasn't old enough at the time. I was only 19 to have a job, and they're like, "Oh, to be a box office person, you have to be 21. So then I was just looking through the website, looking at improv classes, and then they're like, "New, the Harold Ramis Film School." And I'm like, what's this? And I looked through the website, and it was so convenient. Just the timing was so convenient. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, we're looking for, we just started. Yeah. It's a film school focused on writing and filmmaking." And I'm like, "Oh, my God, this is what I'm looking for." So then, conveniently, there was an open house literally that week. Yeah. I looked at it, and I was like, "Oh, my God, I should, go to this." So I went to this, and I forgot who was on the panel. I remember Jack was the one that was on the panel, Jack Newell. And I think maybe Trevor and Julie were there. I forgot. But I went there by myself, and, I was so interested in just everything. It was like everything that I wanted. Literally, it was like God sending me a signal like, hey, go to the school.
Yeah.
So then I applied.
The fact that he let you live all the way from the Loop to...
yeah. The fact that I didn't get
Town.
murdered, me and my friend didn't get murdered, shows that, like, hey, go to the school. So I applied, and I was on the wait list for Original Orange, the first class.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
Same here.
Yeah. And then, what was it? Still on the wait list, and then by the time Blue and Purple came around the second round, they still put me on the wait list, and then finally they let me into Green.
Mm-hmm. But you'd had some experience with the production end of like the back end from the classes and stuff you'd been taking.
Yeah, I definitely had a lot of production experience.
And I think because they had because they were trying to what's the word? Curate the individual classes and the groups of people so that it wasn't just all one thing. I feel like maybe you and I probably got waitlisted for the same thing, which is like for a production person spot. You know what I mean?
I definitely had like a film background. I had zero background in improv whatsoever. Honestly, I criticized myself throughout the whole entire program that I was so bad at improv. Because like everybody in my class, everybody in my cohort is so funny. They're so talented. And then there's just me, and I'm like so awkward and so afraid to just jump out there and just act like a fool in front of everybody.
You say this, but then you've got an Instagram channel where all you do is be funny and awkward and make a fool.
We'll lead into that, but I've evolved like a Pokemon, I've gotten so much better at it when I started the YouTube channel. We'll like talk about that later, but I've definitely grown so much.
Yeah. And
Harold Ramis has definitely changed me. I think for the better, more confident and as a storyteller and just as a person in general.
Yeah. And it's interesting to me that because you're not the only person that said like storytelling in other schools is lacking. Mm-hmm. Like they're good at getting people up to speed on the production end of things and understanding how all the technical stuff works, but they're not great at making good stories. Like it's that seems to be something that this school has kind of a lock on compared to other schools.
Yeah, SAIC, it just they're used to making experimental avant-garde kind of films. Mm-hmm. And then like I'm somebody who wanted to do narrative stuff for the longest time, and just nobody like really understood comedy at SAIC. Yeah. It's like you present a funny script and then people like either get offended by it or just nobody laughs in the class, and it's just kind of like, what do you do on your off days? You just sit there and watch paint dry? Like nobody understands the concept of comedy.
Sit there and watch paint dry. That's
paint dry. I don't know. It frustrates me a lot.
Yeah, but it's interesting because you are going to come out of both programs then with a more well-rounded, not intelligence set, but the skill set from this to be able to draw from. Yeah,
I feel like I know this isn't a degree that we got at the end. It's a certificate, but I feel like this was my graduate degree. I'm not going to school after this. I've been so exhausted from all this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still like on a high right now with the peak because I'm in my final semester of college.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm ready to like crash and burn after this because I've made literally 4 films in the past year. And it's psychotic. It really is because I went to both SAIC and Harold Ramis at the same time for the past year. So I was doing Harold Ramis full time, and that's like 6 classes. And then I was doing SAIC part time, so that was 2 classes. And so whenever we had an off day at Harold Ramis, I'd be in school at SAIC.
Yeah.
And I'd just like have homework nonstop. And, I don't know. I have this mentality where I just keep pushing myself to the limit. And that's a good thing and this is a bad thing, because good thing is you push yourself so much that you do get success at the end, but it's also a bad thing because you lose your mind. I've had like... No, just personally, I've never like talked about this with anybody before, but I've had like a lot of like anxiety attacks, and I would just like come home, cry to my parents, and just like I'd be literally shaking. I don't know when you started recording this, but I was just telling you like I was having heart palpitations for a while, and when you're at a high for so much and you just keep pushing yourself, you're gonna break soon. And like I was just like crying nearly every day.
Angie said to one of the other classes, we don't have Angie this term because she's working on monuments and another project, so she's tied up. So we've got Carla's actually filling in, but Angie, I've heard she has told like other classes like this level of productivity is not something we can anticipate outside of this world. Like there will be fits and spurts, but not for a year straight of just maintaining this level of output and constant like creation. Like it's people they'll do fits and spurts and then take a break for a while, or they'll just do a handful of really lax things for a while, and it's never this level when you get into the professional world. So that's what I'm kind of banking on, is that the insanity we're going through for 3-4 weeks at a time here is something I'll deal with for a couple days, maybe in the professional world.
Definitely first term was the worst for me, just because that was when I was like having horrible anxiety. I was like I would say 2017 was probably like the worst year of my life. Personally, I don't know. I like right before I started the program, everything just like came to a halt for me. I felt like I had like a quarter life crisis at 20 years old, So, yeah, I was accepted in the cohort. I was the youngest one in my cohort. I think I was just the youngest one in the inaugural class as a general thing.
Yeah.
So, I was at the very, like, kind of midpoint, almost at the end of my college career before I got accepted here. And I didn't know what I was going to do for a job. I got out of, like, a really serious relationship, and that, like, completely destroyed me. And, I come into this county program, like, kind of depressed, basically. And everybody's, like, being happy. And I guess that's where that awkwardness came from in improv class. It's just that there was so much stuff going through my head that I didn't know, like, just how to just let loose, let it go, move on with life. You're only 20 years old, and at the time I was thinking, oh my God, I'm an old woman, but like quarter life crisis. But literally, I'm 20 years old, and I'm still technically like a teenager to some people. Yeah. And there was so much going on in my head, and like I would come into class, and then like after class I would just like go back to my dorm basically crying, because I was just like so stressed out about everything, thinking like, is this even a good idea? Like I should have taken a gap year with school. I'm doing school at the same time. And like I had a like extremely dark point right when I started Harold Ramis, like, can I even handle this? And thankfully, one of my best friends, Mike, he texted me, and I just like talked to him, and everything was like okay after that. And like, I think that's what got me through everything, all the anxiety and stress with just going to both schools, was just my friendships with people. And
somebody on the outside that could take a step back from the situation and be like, no, this looks like it's a good thing for you.
I mean, like, no way in shape or form, like, did I need to be in a relationship through this whole year. I think that would have been, like, the worst thing ever. It's just to drag somebody down with me. So, like, I haven't if I'm going down, we're all going down. But like, yeah, I think it was best that, I just like take time to myself, just getting out of a relationship. I don't want to date anybody for the next year. Just focus on just myself, my practice. And then just whenever I needed friends, I would just talk to them, and they would talk to me. And they were my only like thing that I had to keep me sane.
Right.
And aside from my family's so supportive and everything. Like I love my parents. They support me in everything that I do. A lot of parents just like hate their kids that they're going into arts, but they see something in me. I don't know how, but they see something in me that, I really appreciate, and they just help me all the way through. And, I love them for that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think my parents initially were very, cautious about this, and about just arts in general as a career path, and they still are to a certain degree. But they're supportive of it. They still watch every short that I make. They listen. My mom listens to every single podcast. She like informs me every time I talk to her. Like, I'm on episode 37. I'm working up to it.
That's so nice. Somebody should interview you. Like, the last podcast you'll have is just be like, interview with Tony Lazzeroni.
Yeah, I've gotten a couple people that have offered to do that. Zach and Aaron.
Yeah,
he really
I
wants to
gave
do
him a high five out there.
Okay, yeah,
so.
yeah. He wants to do that one. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens. Right now I'm still steeped in trying to get final film and final script done. Like,
it's
I'm recording
stressful.
these ahead of time, and for those that don't know, by the time this episode gets posted, it will be the day after I've filmed my term 3 film. So I will be recovering that week. I'm trying to record a bunch of these ahead of time so that I don't have to. I don't have to think about it for like a week, but I can just auto post.
Yeah, that's what sucks about like doing your own thing, is trying to keep consistency to like keep an audience going.
Well, and so so transitioning over to the YouTube thing. So now is that what you're trying to use as kind of your not audition piece, but your resume type builder is putting together a YouTube channel, or
no?
What's the
actually,
goal?
this is just like for fun. I want to like, me and my friend Alessandro, we've been friends since I was like 14 years old. He's 24 and I'm 22, so I've known him since high school. And we just became like really close friends during like this past year. Again, like friends help you out with everything.
Right.
And I was looking for I've asked a number of people like, hey, do you want to start a YouTube channel with me? And it's been something I wanted to do for like the longest time. And, Alessandro came around and, we just like clicked instantly. Like, he's a marketing major at DePaul and I'm a filmmaker. So it kind of like works. And we're good enough friends that, we keep each other just level-headed. Like, he calls me out on my shit and I call him out on his shit whenever one of us is being irrational. And there's no romance involved, thank God. But so many people like think that we're dating, but we're not. We're just like really good friends. And I hate it when people put that stereotype on people, like, oh, if a guy and a girl work together, obviously like they're hooking up. And it's like, no, it's like the complete opposite of that. We're just good friends. And
I think that becomes more less speculated about as you get older. Like I remember when I was about your age, I would have thought the same thing, but nowadays, like, I mean, I have Melissa McGlenzie is my producer, and that's not any kind of romantic relationship or anything like that whatsoever. But we work really well close together. Like, and I would keep working with her for other stuff. So it gets easier on that on that end.
And if you definitely like watch our stuff, you can just tell like it's clearly just a friendship relationship in our videos. And we started the channel right when I graduated in May from the Harold Ramis Film School. And we've been doing like videos every single week since May, and we just like put out a video this week where we're talking about we're changing the dynamic and everything, because we want to be funny. That's our whole mission, is being funny. And we're kind of boring in some of the vlogs that we make and like skits that we do, so we're gonna like amp it up a little bit. We become more confident, and the whole vlog thing, YouTube channel thing, in a sense, it is like improv at Second City. You're yes-anding. And so I've definitely become so much more confident with myself and just acting in front of the camera, doing the vlogs. And what was I going to say? I always blank out.
Well, and you do so you've got the Instagram to go along with that. Is that just a repeat of the stuff that's going up on YouTube, or is that dedicated stuff to market to drive people towards the YouTube channel?
I think we've been getting we have twice as many followers on Instagram than we do on YouTube. So we're starting to think that Instagram is our way to get people to see our YouTube stuff. And
like IGTV.
We don't do IGTV. We just post videos on the Instagram page.
Because we just had Andy Shapiro that came out here a few weeks back, and he was talking about he's part of looking at the digital space for I'm blanking on what company, but one of the bigger production groups out in LA, and he's focused entirely on the digital space, and that's what he's been doing for most of his career. But he's like, I'm waiting for somebody to create IGTV content that's narrative. It's like nobody's doing that. Like it doesn't exist. Like the things that you're gonna find, if anything, there's some sketch stuff here and there, but there's nobody that's really using that space the way that it can be. And it's interesting too because it's all vertical, so it's a different editing. It's different, dynamics of using the screen. Like, and that's really interesting. That's one of those ones that I think when I get out, like I'm out of the program here, I may try and come up with some concept that might work for that space. But especially if you've already got the followers there, you could easily like start to transition and use some of that stuff for it.
We've only had the Instagram for a month, and already we have like 90 followers.
Yeah.
And we've had YouTube for like 4 months. We only have like 36 subscribers.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of depressing, but I'd rather do the YouTube stuff than the Instagram stuff. But Instagram, we're kind of doing it like Vine, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
So we just
like
do
quick
like
little videos,
really quick videos, and then post them and just like hashtag the shit out of them. And it's ridiculous. Like, we keep pushing ourselves to get better, get crazier, get funnier. We're not going to be like as psychotic as like the Paul brothers or anything.
Right.
We're not going to film dead bodies, but
and that's the thing. It's I think it's easier to get followers on Instagram because it's less of a commitment.
But a lot of people are just following us so they can, have us follow them back. And it's like, no, we're not doing that.
But in the same breath, that still adds to your follower numbers. They don't differentiate the bots and the self-interest follows when they count up the total. So you have to look at anybody that's popular in that space and go, some of those are obviously people that aren't actually following them in any way, shape, or form. That if it's 10% of your audience, it's going to be 10% of theirs too, which just means it's 10,000 as opposed to 10.
I mean, like, we both said, like, right when we started all this, both me and Alessandra, we sat down, we like we have like weekly discussions about just marketing and everything. And we talk about like, are we both willing to do this in the long run? Because there's like this always statistic that starting a business, once you hit like 3 or 5 years, that's when you start getting traction. So we both know like this is something we're gonna have to go with for a long time and see what happens. And we're getting impatient sometimes, like why are we at 36 subscribers for the past 2 months? And it's so annoying, but we keep producing stuff, and hopefully somebody could see us
takes
eventually.
1 or 2 good hits, and that's when that's the stuff that you can't plan for. Like, you can't force viral. But it's just it's keep thinking outside the box, see what else you can create, and hopefully something else will come. Well, so if this isn't your long term, what do you want to do in the grand scheme?
I mean, if this YouTube thing takes off, I'd love to just do YouTube for a while. I know a lot of YouTube creators, they peak for a while and then they just die. And I know, like, I'm not gonna be doing YouTube for like 40 years. Like, let's be real. But I want to like eventually just be my own boss and direct, write. I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place right now because I am only 22 years old, and I don't know what it's like in the industry right now with anything. And I have like so much college debt that, I'm kind of limited at the moment. Maybe when I'm like 25 or 30, I'll branch out. But I'm just starting off small and thinking of like the 5-year plan versus the 40-year plan. Yeah. I mean, I don't expect, if I really want to go for it and get an Oscar, I'll probably get an Oscar when I'm like 50 years old. But
that's how most people do it.
I got to enjoy, being young, being 22, and, realizing, you got to stop pushing yourself so much because, again, like I said, the downfall of just pushing yourself is so much is that, I'm young, I'm too stressed out to be stressed out. I'm too young to be stressed out.
Too stressed out to be stressed out.
For somebody who is like going hard at like 20, 21 years old for like a year straight, it drains you so much. And I'm producing like my 4th film in the past year, and it's so much stress. Like, I'm in the middle of pre-production right now, and I've been stressing out so much about it, and I film in a few weeks. And just when I finish this film, I'm thinking like I'm just going to take like a hiatus from short films in general. And when I graduate, I don't have to like worry about homework anymore. So I'm just going to like focus on like job, relationships with people that I know of, and the YouTube channel, and just stick with that for a while.
Is this project, is this your final for SAIC?
For SAIC, yeah, it's my BFA thesis film.
What's the concept?
So it's called The Comedy Club, and I actually wrote it here at Harold Ramis. It was my year-long script. It was a TV pilot. Okay. And this is just like a section of it. and I
So you
turned
could
into
send it
like
to,
short film
New York
format.
Television Festival or something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like Whiplash. They made a short film first, and then they made it into a movie.
Right.
So it's just like one section of it, and it's just backstage shenanigans, like 5 minutes before a show starts. And there's this famous television producer, kind of like the Lorne Michaels in this world, that comes in. Everybody backstage is like, "Oh my God, this famous guy is coming!" And then the stage manager, his name's Brandon. He's kind of freaking out because he thinks that his job is on the line. He wants to make everybody look good, but everything's just going completely wrong backstage. Like the police come and the main actor's on drugs and everybody's getting into fights. And he's like, can something go right for once? And, in a sense, Brandon's just like me, So,
Trying to manage all the chaos.
yeah, trying to manage all the chaos.
And so would you, if say that thing you got into, New York Television Festival or something like that and got it picked up, would you want to show run? Would you want to just be writing staff? What would you want to do?
Can student films get picked up for TV shows?
Well, so that when they had New York Television Festival here, apparently those sorts of things, they don't want full pilots. They want like sections of pilots.
Yeah.
So like what you're making could easily be something you could submit and theoretically get into that, and then get it in front of people that would potentially buy it, and then probably reshoot what you had once you recast with whoever they would want.
I mean, I need to work on that. Just the pilot script in general more, just because I don't know. I stopped working on it after I finished Harold Ramis, and it's like it's not the best script ever. It can be, but it needs a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I'm just focusing on the short film right now, and I'm thinking about, I definitely want to put this into film festivals as well as my Harold Ramis final figure drawing. Both of those films are so strong that I want to put them in festivals.
With your all the Austin Powers style vegetables for
that was
anatomical parts.
That was a huge risk I took. Figure drawing was definitely like, I would say the catalyst, not the catalyst, but like I'm looking for a word that just it crossed the line from where I was hesitant to take a risk, and I finally took a risk and it paid off. I refused to tell my parents about the movie, just period, because they, how parents are. They want their kids to like censor themselves and no swear words, no sex scenes, no naked male models. And
see, I thought yours was pretty tame with just the nude male. So it's
I purposely made it tame.
The pitch of it is a woman that winds up talking to another woman at a nude figure drawing class, right?
Yeah, this girl is taking a community course on figure drawing for the first time, and this male model comes in, and the teacher's kind of like creepy about it. He's kind of like hitting on the male model, and one of her rivals in the class is hitting on him, and you're trying to figure out what's the relationship between the main girl and the male model. And I don't know if I should give away the ending, but
it sets up for an interesting ending.
Yeah, it sets up for a really interesting ending. And, I took a huge risk with this film, and I think it paid off in the end. Everybody loved it so much.
Yeah.
I didn't know that they were going to put it first in our screening. So I invited my boss, who I've worked with since I was like 17, to come to the screening, and he's like, "Oh my God, Maddy, when's your movie gonna be on?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And then right when it pops up, and I'm like, "Oh no, they took me first."
Yeah, it seems like I've been to 3 of the screenings because I went to your graduation screening, and then I went to both Red and Orange when they graduated. They seem to put like the biggest set piece film first.
Really?
So, like whichever one has like the biggest production scale, because like it was Eddie with like his like zombie dance thing in that one, and Bria with the burlesque party sequence one.
Really?
Those were the 2 that started each of their respective graduation groups.
The biggest scale. I mean, everybody
Yours was pretty good sized. I mean, you had there were probably 8 or 9 people on camera total in yours, weren't there?
Yeah, I mean, that's funny that you say that, because my budget was only $400.
Yeah.
And that was all spent on food.
But you use the space, and like you also had equipment that you could get more easily.
I kind of like quote unquote stole equipment from my college, and
Which you also did for other films, like the one that you and I worked on together for Mike Schiff.
for Mike Schiff's film, we took that camera because, you know, it was an IOU to him because he was on my movie. And, you know, I love Mike, and we're like best friends.
How could you not? He's a good dude.
Yeah, and so anyway, I used not Harold Ramis, SAIC equipment, and then I used SAIC facilities, and you know, I based the whole figure drawing movie. I was kind of mocking an experience that I had at school, and you know, I was making fun of everybody that took themselves way too seriously at that school. Like I said earlier, you know, so many people just take themselves way too seriously at that school, and you know, I just wanted to make fun of it.
Yeah.
And just like poke at people and, you know, poke the grizzly bear and
see what happens.
Wake them up. And I submitted it to a SAIC festival. It's called X Fest. And they responded back to me like, sorry, we're not going to accept it. And I'm thinking they probably hated it or got offended because it like clearly states, if you go to SAIC, it clearly states that like you're kind of like making fun of the art world. And, you know, I don't know. I hope it gets accepted in other festivals because that would really suck if it doesn't.
We shall see. Well, another one you ought to look into, the Women in Comedy Festival. We got into that one in Boston. I want to say it's early part of the year in Boston, but we submitted a couple years back and got a film that we did for 48 Hour Film Project in for it. So that, you can, and it was just because it was a female lead. They'll do a female lead, female directed, so they have like limitations for who can actually submit for it based on that. But I'd say that's a good spot to.
Wait, the 48-hour film project?
No, the Women in Comedy. But we took our film that we made in 48-hour film project and then submitted it for festivals.
Was it in this year's 48-hour? Because I did it too.
No. Well, and this was back in DC.
Because
the 48, they have in most major cities they've got a 48 competition at some point during the year. So this was like our 2015 48-hour film festival entry, if I remember right.
Just like a disclaimer, I feel like I've been like kind of shitting on my college a lot, but by no means do I hate the school at all. I love the school, I love the facilities, I love the teachers. It's just that the people get on your nerves. You know, they're just, I don't know. It's
a culture thing.
It's a culture thing, and you know you got to respect that. Like when you come to like Second City and Harold Ramis, everybody you know is very loosey goosey, and then when you go to SAIC, you know everybody. It's more pretentious, you know. SAIC is a school to take very seriously, and you know, I like the school, I really do. It's grown on me so much, but you know, just sometimes you gotta just put those people aside that bother you. And
it's any institutional relationship you're ever gonna have. There's things you're gonna love, there's things you're gonna hate, and the ones that are easiest to talk about tend to be the things that you hate because it's the only thing that keeps you from loving it 100%.
Yeah, I mean, like. SAC has definitely given me things that, you know, I love. At the end of the day, they taught me a lot of things with just relationships. They helped me grow in college. Just college in general helps me grow. I'm not the same person I was when I was 17, I'll tell you that. Yeah. And, you know, it's prepared me for the real world. And I feel like I'm ready to take on the next step when I finish in December. Yeah. And, you know, it's just... I don't know. It's been a crazy 4 years, really crazy. Well,
so since you have a unique perspective, having done both kinds of film school, one question I used to ask on this a lot, and I've gotten away from it, but I think you would provide some insight for it. If somebody were thinking about trying to go into film school, what advice would you give to them? Regardless of whether it's Harold Ramis, SAIC, you know, anything like that.
I think just everyone that you meet has an impact on you, whether it's positive or negative. I've had a lot, mostly positive relationships with people from film school. And I know I was saying, like, there's crazy people at SAIC. There's a lot of good people at SAIC, don't get me wrong. Yeah. I've had a lot of good relationships with people at SAIC. But definitely, like, Harold Ramis in Second City, Green Cohort, you know, I'll always have memories of that. You know, there's a lot of dynamic in the relationships, and everybody comes from different backgrounds. And I think that, you know, at the end of the day, we're all working towards the same goal, and it's to be either a writer, or producer, or director. And, you know, you end up working with the same people for the rest of your life probably because since I've graduated, I've run into a number of Green Cohort people or just other Harold Ramis people on certain, you know, freelance projects. there's somebody that I met 4 years ago at work, and I never talked to them ever again after that. But then I randomly messaged them on Facebook this past summer asking them, hey, do you want to help me with 48-hour film project? And they said, yeah, totally down. And we like had the same relationship we had 4 years ago.
Yeah, just picked up right where it left off.
Yeah, and like it's okay if you don't have to be like best friends with these people. Like they get it. You're busy. They're busy. They have lives. Some people are married and have kids, or some people are just getting their career started. And, it's just like, be kind, be nice on set.
Yeah.
Because in the long run, you never know if you're going to need somebody to lend out a hand to you. Mm-hmm. And, you want to return that as well. So I definitely think that, everybody you do meet has a great impact on you. Mm-hmm. And, Green Cohort's just, we're a fun cohort. We're crazy.
Doesn't serve anybody well to be a dick.
Yeah, don't be a jerk. Don't think of yourself above anybody. Even if you have like so many years of experience in filmmaking, you work with Steven Spielberg and everything, and then you're talking down to like some kid like, hey, you don't know anything about film. Like, come on, you're just being a jerk right there.
Yeah.
If you have that experience, try to help them out and become somebody like you.
Yeah.
Because, in the long run, you never know. You could be helping the next Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Well, if people want to try and track you down and find you on social media, track your YouTube channel, where can they look for you?
So there's this new rule with YouTube that you have to have like 100 subscribers to have a custom URL. So I can't be
you
like,
have to search for it.
Yeah, you have to search for it. We're at Are We Rolling with a question mark.
Okay.
And then you can like find our profile picture. It's me on top of a giant red phone that Alessandro's holding.
Okay.
That's the profile. I think if you just put in the search engine, Are We Rolling question mark, will pop up first.
Should try and get like a web domain or something and then just redirect it. So you could just have a website, some .com, and send it to there.
Yeah, or if we hit 100 subscribers, we can finally do Are We Rolling.
That works too.
I know on like...
Is it 100? I thought it was 1,000.
It's 100.
Is it 100? Okay.
1,000's where you start getting paid.
Oh, okay.
But Instagram, we're at Are We Rolling 1.
Okay.
So, and then we have the link to the channel on the Instagram page.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Tony.
My pleasure. And that was Madolyn Rusen. Thank you to Maddy and to the Harold Ramis Film School and the Second City staff for their help. The song on this week's episode was Armageddon by Derek Evry. Find more of Derek's killer music at derekevry.com. That's DerekEvry. This show is recorded and edited by me, Tony Lazzeroni. If you want to hear more from me and my classmates, teachers, and a few special guests, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. If you have questions or comments, send us an email at filmstudentpod@gmail.com or find us on Twitter and Instagram at filmstudentpod. And be sure to check out some of my and my classmates' work at filmstudentpod.com, where you can also find links to all of our past episodes. See you all next week. Class dismissed.